Has the Gardner Museum art been found? The short answer is no. Officially, the 13 pieces stolen from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston back in 1990 are still missing. The empty frames still hang on the walls, a constant, quiet reminder of the loss. The FBI says the case is still open. The museum still offers a $10 million reward. But the real answer is more complicated. It's a no but. And that but leads us down a fascinating and troubling path. It leads to a theory that has persisted for decades, one that feels both like a Hollywood movie and a grim, plausible reality. It's the idea that the art isn't lost at all, it's not destroyed, it's not sitting in a dusty attic waiting to be discovered by a lucky grandkid. It was found the moment it left the museum. This is the secret collector theory. The idea is simple. Someone with immense wealth and a deep, obsessive desire for art didn't want to ransom it. They didn't want to sell it, they just wanted to own it. They wanted to sit in a private room alone and look at Rembrandt's only seascape. They wanted to have a Vermeer all to themselves, a masterpiece fewer than 40 people in history have ever owned. The art isn't missing, it's just private now. To understand why this theory holds so much weight, you have to go back to the heist itself. It wasn't a simple smash and grab, it was strange. On March 18, 1990, two men dressed as Boston police officers buzzed the museum security desk. They said they were responding to a disturbance call. The night watchman, a young guy named Rick Abath, broke protocol and let them in. Once inside, the fake cops quickly subdued Abath and the other guard. They wrapped duct tape around their heads and hands and led them to the basement, handcuffing them to pipes. Then, they had the museum to themselves for 81 minutes, an eternity for a robbery. And what they took is where the story gets weird. They went straight for the Dutch room. They took Rembrandt's The Storm on the Sea of Galilee and A Lady and Gentleman in Black. They cut them crudely from their frames. They took Vermeer's The Concert, one of only 34 of his paintings in the world. They also took a Govert Flink, but then their choices became bizarre. They tried to take a large Rembrandt self-portrait, but it was too heavy. Instead, they unscrewed a tiny Rembrandt etching, no bigger than a credit card, from the side of a case. They took an ancient Chinese bronze beaker, or gu. They stole a finial, a decorative eagle that sat atop a Napoleonic flag. They left the flag. They took 5 drawings by Degas. What did they leave behind? They walked right past a Titian, one of the most valuable paintings in the collection. They left Raphael's untouched. The whole thing felt both targeted and clumsy. Professional in its entry, amateurish in its execution. They smashed a case to get the finial, but carefully unscrewed the tiny etching. They cut masterpieces from their frames, an act of barbarism to any art lover. The strange collection of loot is the first clue. It doesn't look like a shopping list for the black market. Fencing a Degas drawing is one thing. Selling a famous Vermeer or Rembrandt's only seascape. They're impossible. They are too well known. They are, in a word, unsellable. No reputable auction house or dealer would touch them. Any underground buyer would know they were buying a homing beacon for the FBI. The value of the art is often quoted as being over $500 million. But that's the insurance value, the cultural value. The street value is effectively zero. Owning it is a crime. Showing it is a confession. So why steal it? The most common reason for this kind of heist is ransom. Steal something priceless and sell it back to the owners or the insurance company. But in over 30 years, there has been no credible ransom demand. Not one. The museum has made it clear they will pay for information. The FBI has made it clear they will consider immunity. Still, silence. This is where the normal criminal motives fall apart. If you can't sell it and you can't ransom it, what's the point? But the risk is enormous, and the reward is... what? The reward, the secret collector theory argues, is the art itself. Imagine a person who has everything. Super yachts, private jets, islands. Money is no object. What they don't have is the Concert by Vermeer, and they know they can never buy it. It's in a museum. It belongs to the world. For most people, that's the end of the story. Sure, they can buy a print. But for a certain type of personality, a true obsessive, that's a challenge. The desire to possess something becomes all-consuming. It's not about the money. It's about the thing itself. The beauty, the history, the rarity, and the ultimate expression of power is to take what cannot be bought. The theory goes like this: a reclusive billionaire somewhere in the world commissioned the theft. He or she didn't care about the Titian. They had a specific list. Maybe the thieves got it a little wrong. Maybe they panicked and grabbed a few extra things, like the finial. The important pieces, the Rembrandt seascape and the Vermeer, were the primary targets. The thieves were just contractors. They were paid for a service. They got their money, likely a few $1 million, and were instructed to disappear. Their job was to get the art out of the museum. What happened to it after that was none of their business. They hand it off to a middleman and it vanishes into the world of the super rich. Found a world with private, climate-controlled storage facilities in Switzerland, hidden vaults and mansions, and soundproofed rooms on mega yachts. In that world, the art isn't a hot potato. It's a trophy. The owner can look at it whenever they want. They can show it to a very small, very trusted circle of friends. It's the ultimate secret. The ultimate status symbol, precisely because it can't be shown off to the public. The thrill comes from the possession itself. This theory explains so much. It explains the silence. There's no need for a ransom because the client already has what they paid for.
It explains why the art has never surfaced on the black market. It was never intended for the market.
It had a buyer before it was even stolen. It even explains the crude cutting from the frames. A true art connoisseur would be horrified, but perhaps the collector wasn't a connoisseur in the traditional sense. They were an obsessive, a possessor. Or, more likely, the collector never specified how the art should be removed. They just wanted it done. The thieves, not being art historians, did it the quickest way they knew how. They were muscle, not artists. The damage was just collateral. The paintings could be restored later, in private, by an expert who asks no questions and is paid very well for their silence. Think about the psychology of it. It's a level of selfishness that's hard to comprehend. Art in a museum is for everyone. It's our shared cultural heritage. To steal it for a private collection is to say, my desire to see this is more important than anyone else's. My pleasure is worth more than the world's. It's a god complex played out with canvas and paint. Of course, this is all speculation. There is no smoking gun. There is no shadowy Dr. No figure that the FBI has named. But the idea has been fueled by whispers and hints over the years. There's another major branch to the Gardner story, and it involves the Boston mob. For years, the FBI has believed the heist was linked to local organized crime. The investigation has centered on a crew of aging gangsters, people like Carmelo Merlino, Robert Guarente, and a key suspect, Robert the Cook, a Gentile. These guys were not art experts, they were career criminals, so if they stole the art, why? The leading theory here is that they took it to use as a get-out-of-jail-free card. If one of their guys got into serious trouble, they could try to trade the art for a reduced sentence. It was leverage. A bargaining chip worth more than cash. This theory is also very strong. It fits the criminal mindset perfectly, and there's some evidence to support it. Informants have linked these men to the crime. In 2013, the FBI announced they were confident they knew who the thieves were. They said they were members of a criminal organization based in the mid-Atlantic in New England, and they were dead. But knowing who stole it is not the same as knowing where it is. The mob theory and the secret collector theory don't have to be separate. In fact, they might be two sides of the same coin. One possibility is that the mob crew were the original contractors, hired by the collector. They did the job, got paid, and handed over the art. This fits nicely. The collector gets their art, the mob gets their money, and the trail goes cold. But there's another, more chaotic possibility. Maybe the mob stole the art for leverage, as a bargaining chip. But then something went wrong. Maybe the person they wanted to help died in prison. Maybe the feds wouldn't play ball. Suddenly they're stuck with 13 priceless, unsellable, and very hot pieces of art. What do you do then? You can't just throw a Vermeer in a dumpster. It's still an asset, even if it's a dangerous one. So maybe after the initial plan failed, they sought out a buyer. They found their way into the murky world of high-end black market deals and found a collector willing to pay a fraction of the art's value just to take it off their hands. In this scenario, the art might have passed through several hands. It could have been hidden for years in a gangster's basement in South Boston before being sold to a middleman, who then sold it to a collector in Europe or Asia. This would make the trail even harder to follow. The story of Robert Gentile is a perfect example of this frustrating chase. The FBI was convinced he knew something. Gentile was an aging mobster from Connecticut. His wife told the FBI that after Guarente died, his widow gave Gentile 2 of the stolen paintings. Gentile denied it. Of course. The FBI searched his house, they dug up his yard, they put him under immense pressure, charging him with unrelated gun crimes to try and make him talk. They offered him the reward money, they offered him his freedom. He was an old man in poor health. They were offering him a chance to die at home, instead of in a cell. All he had to do was tell them where the art was. And he told them nothing. He insisted he didn't know. He even took a lie detector test, and the results were inconclusive. Was he a hardened old-timer, loyal to a code of silence to the very end? Or did he really not know? Or maybe he knew, but he couldn't give the art back because it was long gone, sold to a secret collector years ago, and ratting out that person would be a death sentence far more certain than any judge could hand down. Gentile died in 2021, and whatever he knew, he took it with him. This is the fog that surrounds the Gardner heist. Every lead seems to dissipate. Every promising thread leads to a dead end or a dead body. The original suspects are almost all gone now. Time is running out. So we're left with the theory. The art is safe. It's being cared for. It's hanging on a wall somewhere, perfectly lit in a climate-controlled room, right? It's just not our wall. This idea is both comforting and infuriating. It's comforting because it means the art isn't destroyed. The storm on the Sea of Galilee, Rembrandt's turbulent, brilliant masterpiece, wasn't burned in an incinerator to destroy evidence. The concert, with its quiet, perfect harmony, isn't rotting at the bottom of a river. They still exist, but it's infuriating because it represents the ultimate privatization of culture. It's a crime not just against a museum, but against all of us. Isabella Stewart Gardner built her museum for the education and enjoyment of the public forever. A secret collector has undone that for their own selfish enjoyment. Is there any hope? Maybe. The collector, if they exist, won't live forever. What happens then? Do they bequeath the art to a child who doesn't want to live with a $10 million bounty on their head? Do they have a crisis of conscience on their deathbed and arrange for the art's anonymous return? This has happened before. In 1994, Edvard Munch's The Scream was stolen from a gallery in Oslo. It was recovered 3 months later. In 2004, another version of The Scream was stolen. It was recovered 2 years later. Stolen art does come back, but the Gardner heist is different. The sheer length of time that has passed makes it unique. 30+ years is a long time to keep a secret. It suggests the art is in a very stable, very secure place, not being passed from criminal to criminal, but in its final destination. The Dutch art detective Arthur Brand, who has successfully recovered many stolen masterpieces, has his own take on this. He believes the art still exists. It's tied to the Irish Republican Army, another popular theory that sometimes intersects with the mob angle. But he also believes that the people who have it now might not even know how to get rid of it. They're trapped. They can't sell it, they can't reveal it, and they're terrified of the consequences if they're caught. This paints a slightly different picture from the Bond villain collector. It suggests the art is in the hands of a criminal organization, a legacy passed down to a new generation that inherited this massive problem. They're sitting on a treasure they can't use. But even in that scenario, what's the end game? At some point, someone has to decide what to do, and as the years go by, the historical value only increases, while the criminal risk, for those not directly involved in the theft, might start to seem more manageable. A lawyer could be hired. A negotiation could be started through a back channel. The museum has been very clear. They don't care about prosecuting the person who has the art now. They just want it back. The $10 million reward is for information leading directly to the recovery of the art in good condition. It's a finder's fee, not a bounty for an arrest. It's an invitation to make a deal. So far, no one has accepted that invitation, and so we wait. And the secret collector theory continues to haunt the case. It's the one explanation that fits the profound, deafening silence. The art didn't vanish into thin air. It vanished into a private world. A world beyond the reach of the law and public appeal. We can picture it. A library in a Swiss chalet, a panic room in a Tokyo penthouse. The art is there, the Vermeer hangs opposite the Rembrandt, the light is soft. The owner sits in a leather chair, perhaps with a glass of expensive wine, and enjoys their private museum. They have stolen a piece of the world's soul, and they are the only ones who can see it. This is why the empty frames at the Gardner Museum are so powerful. They are not just placeholders. They are a statement of hope. They say, "We are waiting. This is your home. Come back." But they are also an accusation. They point to the possibility that the art isn't lost in the chaotic underworld of crime. It's being hoarded. It has been found by one person and therefore lost to everyone else. Until a painting surfaces or a deathbed confession is made, we are left only with theories. And the secret collector theory, for all its cinematic flair, remains the most logical explanation for an illogical crime. It explains the strange choice of loot, the lack of a ransom, and the 30 years of silence. The art has been found, you just can't see it. And that is the cruelest part of the entire story. The theft is ongoing. Every day the art hangs on a private wall as another day it is stolen from the public. The crime didn't just happen for 81 minutes in 1990, it's still happening, right now in a quiet room somewhere we'll never find.